I think everyone's all high and mighty on these guys who come from, kickboxing and boxing background. When they come over to the UFC, they expect them to be these elite strikers. The distance, the combos, the head movement, the number of variables, it's a completely different game. So to me, that never translates. It doesn't. They would have spent so much time.
They're selling our wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you will do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I'm gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nate Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Yes. What is up? MCR family live. Another daily edition of the show every day, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, live on YouTube, and of course on podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, etc. I'm joined today by a special guest, obviously contributor to ShareDar.com, and once on this show, maybe a while ago, a long time ago, Mr. Anthony Walker. What up?
What's up, man? How you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you? It's another hot day in LA.
Yeah, man. Los Angeles has its ups and downs, and traffic is down. I hate traffic. I despise it. I just braved it. And here I'm talking about fights, and life is suddenly better.
That is true. And obviously, there's a lot going on in the MMA world, and just the overall combat sport world. So let's just get into it, because obviously I played it in the cold intro. The thing that started off this entire week of drama, of everyone wanting the free smoke, everyone spilling the tea, Brendan Schaub, Israel Adesanya, sharing some words, man. And it spilled over into something that was entirely different than what we thought it was going to be. Now, let me quickly set the table and everything like that, because people should know. Obviously, that video was played or posted by Israel Adesanya, sort of shitting on Brendan Schaub, who is, Fighting the Kid podcast, known sort of personality now in MMA and entertainment. Got the new Showtime show. Salute to him. And Dana White came in here and decided to, send some shots. I don't blame him. It is what it is. He said that, he's successful. As soon as Rogan stops carrying him, he will disappear, and they showed some more words. I'm not going to get into all of it, but then Brendan Schaub said the thing that really set it off, this long sort of, the notes post that you take the screenshot of and then, post on IG. I hate that move, by the way. It does.
Takes effort to put that one in.
That's
a lot of effort.
It's so bad. It's so trash, so corny. But he said, this is hilarious. Yes, Joe Rogan, one of my best friends, has played a significant role in my post-fight career, no doubt. You're right about that, Dana White. 2 TV shows, sold out worldwide comedy tour, blah, 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 blah. If it weren't for the Fertittas loaning your ass millions of dollars to invest into an idea that wasn't yours from the start, you wouldn't be shit.
I want smoke.
How does it feel to know once the real businessman and brains left, the UFC has been a shell of itself with you at the forefront? You tried it all. A CM Punk experiment, begging Brock to come back, praying at night for a Connor text. Tough job to do with the Lorenzo holding your hand, making sure you don't mess it all up. Can't feel good. You be a cardio kickboxing coach in Boston in your late 40s, hoping to grab a ticket to my stand-up front row if Lorenzo Fertitta didn't save your ass. Also, this is no way Eskimo brothers should treat one another.
I want smoke.
Fire, son. Fire.
Last warning.
Can you think of anything more MMA than this?
No.
Is there like this is classic MMA right here. This is like everything that we hate and love about the sport just wrapped up into one beautiful, ugly, racist, sexist package right here. Like it is ridiculous. I mean, I hate it as much as I love it. I'll just put it that way.
I'll put it this way.
The fact that
no, you go, Anthony. I'll let you go.
Because all right, so I'm gonna just put a disclaimer out there right away. I'm not gonna say that we are friends, but I am friendly with Brendan Schaub. We train at the same gym. I see him on a regular basis, held mitts for him and stuff before. He's a nice guy. I really like him. I like him as a person. In fact, he helped me find my wedding ring when I, like a dummy, wore it while holding mitts for somebody, and the ring popped off on a rogue uppercut. But a whole other story. But I think that this is actually, I don't agree with a lot of things that Schaub says on his podcast and some of his opinions about fighting. But this is one where I'm really on his side. I think he makes a lot of sense, and I think it's pretty immature for the head of a multi-billion-dollar organization takes his time out to call out one of his former fighters because he didn't like an Instagram post. I mean, that is classic Dana White.
Classic.
I mean, it's just grow up. Like, we could go into the negativity as far as Schaub's response. I don't like where he took it, but I like where he took it.
Here's the thing, because we had only like a month or two ago, we had the Drake versus Pusha beef that took entertainment industry by storm. It got really messy, and this is almost like a parallel to that. It is MMA's Drake versus Pusha in some ways. Dana White has been for so long the perfect brand in a way for the UFC. Like he has been the thing they pushed out as the face of MMA and the UFC, even though he, for all of us that know, is a flagrant, unpolished piece of shit probably in real life, right?
He is certainly not without his flaws.
And then we had Brendan Schaub, who made such a great points about the business acumen of Dana White, and then he comes in with the gut punch of, I mean, what everyone is rumored to really be talking about, the whole Ronda Rousey issue. I'm not really going to delve on that because Ronda Rousey, she's great. She's a Hall of Famer. She has nothing to do with this. But to me, that it is so. I don't even know how to put this into words. It is just in something entirely different in that it the fact that it matches a beef that we just had in major entertainment industry, almost like word for word in some ways, is just fascinating to me.
It don't make you just want to shake your head. It's just like really, this is what's going on. This is what grown folks with all this money do. I'll definitely say this in Schaub's defense, as far as his Fertitta related comments. I mean, he's right.
Yeah,
he's absolutely right. Dana White has definitely made some very good moves, and he should be credited as a great businessman in his own right. But he didn't get that opportunity out of thin air. It wasn't like the Fertittas pulled him out of that cardio boxing class in Boston and said, "Hey, we want you to run the UFC." He happened to be friends with guys who had the money and had the interest, and he talked them into it, and they did it, and it succeeded. So I mean, and especially when you're talking about entertainment, it's always about who you know. I mean, as another guy who lives in the Los Angeles area, you know that. So many people in show business, entertainment, and combat sports, which is entertainment, it's all about who you know, who can put you on in this position and that position. And to try to slay Schaub's career, his post-fighting career, because his association of Rogan. Yeah, Rogan helped him get on, but Schaub is out there putting in the work on the stand-up circuit. He's putting in the work on the podcast. He's putting in the work on Showtime. You can't take that away from him, whether you agree with anything he says or not.
No, absolutely. Like Brendan Schaub, I think is like a golden retriever or like a puppy. Like, you know, he's awesome. Like, he's funny. Like, he has his moments. Yeah. He's lovable. But he's sort of an idiot at times. Like, he's a lovable idiot. And I think he's made a phenomenal job at having a post-fight career and you know, sort of the stepping board of his fighting career. I think he's done it better than probably almost anyone has, to be honest. I mean, what other fighter out there is getting a premium network show deal like with Showtime? No one is.
And I'd say this: he's doing it better than Chuck Liddell, who's about to jump back in the cage.
Oh God!
You know,
you see that? You saw that video of him doing pads with Ray Zeffo?
Oh no, I didn't see that. I heard it was ultra trash, but I'll have to check it out. I heard he just looked really slow and just not Chuck Liddell. I mean, I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, the guy's near 50 now, right?
I've seen people coming off of like 50 pounds of weight loss, still in their 300s, look faster than that. Like Chuck Liddell looked glacier slow. It was bad. But moving back a little bit to Dana White and the whole Fertitta point, I mean, it's been a long-running thing of casuals thinking that Dana White owns the UFC. Mm-hmm. Like, there's still, I would say, a vast portion of the casual fans, people that bought, let's say, Mayweather and McGregor, that think Dana White owns the UFC. You know, like
they think he built it.
Yeah,
you know, which you can credit him with. Building it to what we know today.
But even then, we don't know, because he's just always been what the Fertitta brothers put out as the face of what they did, in my opinion. I think the Fertitta brothers, based off of what their family's history was, never really liked media. Like Lorenzo Fertitta rarely did interviews. Frank never did a single interview from what I remember. I think they just put him out there as the face of what they were doing behind the scenes. They owned, like 80% of the UFC for a vast majority of the time?
Yeah, I mean, really, the Fertitta brothers are gangsters. Like, they are gangsters. They're casino owners who probably have all sorts of underworld ties and everything. Just the way that they bought the UFC, the way they got that cheap price was straight gangster stuff right there. That was a straight gangster move. Lorenzo, being a part of the Nevada Athletic Commission, was one of the people that voted to not regulate mixed martial arts in the state of Nevada. And then, weeks later, they buy the UFC. Mm-hmm.
Then months
unrelated.
And then months later, it was regulated.
Yeah,
literally by the ABC and John McCarthy and what they did, basically.
Yeah, I mean, this was a calculated gangster move, and they've pulled calculated gangster moves for a long time. I don't quote me on this one. Word around the campfire is that even when they banned Ariel Helwani at UFC 199, that was a Fertitta move. Mm-hmm. That wasn't Dana White. So I don't know. I don't know how true that is. I heard that from a few secondhand sources. Multiple sources did say that to me. So, I mean, they've put Dana White to be the bad guy, to be that face, that the guy who's going to yell, who's going to get in your face, who's going to get the camera, who's going to get the attention. Mm-hmm. And it definitely served its purpose. And mixed martial arts would not be where it is without Dana White being that face. But I think we've gone to a time where it's just not necessary anymore. We don't need it. In fact, I think it's just detrimental. How many Twitter rants has Adam Silver gone on, against LeBron, and Roger Goodell and Tom Brady haven't been feuding over what's Deflategate. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense when you have a position of power that high and you control a sport that has so much money flowing through it. You gotta let some things go. Just
you have to be professional. And that's like the word that like no one wants to throw out. But like Dana White's just not a professional person anymore. Like he's He is like Sarah. He is now, but like you said, like he at one point I would say had more clout. Like he had more influence over the community and over the MMA culture, I would say. Now he's almost a caricature of himself. Now he's like the Sarah Huckabee Sanders to the UFC.
Yeah, what he says, don't believe, like just automatic. And I think we can credit that to a lot of different things. I mean, for one, the words that come out of his mouth sometimes are simply ridiculous. Mm-hmm. They are simply insane. What card was that recently? And I should know this because I feel like I wrote an article about it. Where was it? Oh yeah, when Conor threw the dolly through the bus, mm-hmm. and Ray Borg and Chiesa got taken off the card. I think he said they weren't going to get paid their show or their full show and win money or something because, hey, we're not rich over here. Was what he said. Hey, we're not rich over here.
Yeah.
What? No, that's not true.
Dana White's $100 millionaire. Like he's not a millionaire. Yeah, he's almost a billionaire at this point.
He literally imported snow to his house in Vegas because his kids wanted a white Christmas. He also has bought like his entire neighborhood because, hey, fuck neighbors. Like it doesn't. Certain things just don't line up for the man at the head of a company that can't afford to pay Ray Borg his $30,000 to show and win. It doesn't. It makes literally no sense. So I think that coupled with, I mean, once again, going back to Conor McGregor has been the one voice in mixed martial arts that has sustained relevance, sustained great paydays, and he did it while giving a middle finger to everyone in power, including Dana White in the UFC. And to the point where they couldn't stop him.
I think one thing that we always forget is that Conor McGregor's relationship with Lorenzo Fertitta and Frank Fertitta, especially, always seemed to be very good. Right. He always spoke of the Fertitta brothers in high regard. Always talk about Uncle Frank, having a glass of scotch with Uncle Frank. So, to me, I felt like his issues with Dana White were never issues with the UFC, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I just think I think it goes deeper than that because the thing about Conor McGregor is that he challenged the business of mixed martial arts itself, at least the way the UFC has done it. He challenged that paradigm to where they had to give in. How many UFC fighters have begged for boxing matches or begged to just fight outside the UFC? They didn't sign Fedor Emelianenko for the longest time because he still wanted to compete in combat sambo, which is a sport that no one outside of Russia really cares about. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't let him do that. And we're talking about someone who is easily on the greatest of all time list, and they didn't let him do that. Another potential greatest of all time candidate, Anderson Silva, begged to fight Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. showed up cage side for so many of Anderson's fights because they wanted this fight to happen. And they were both willing to fight in each other's sports. Didn't happen because they were concerned about the legitimacy of the sport. Mm-hmm. At least the Fertittas were. Conor decided, yeah, that doesn't mean anything to me. And he forced that Floyd Mayweather fight to happen, and the UFC just had to get on board. He got his boxing license in California. In my estimation, it was to waive the potential of the Ali Act in front of them. And then now that he's a licensed boxer, he can challenge his right to do what he wanted under the Ali Act. And anything opening up that further is going to expose the rest of the UFC roster to this same sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And you had to give in. You had to just let him do it. The UFC is the one time that the UFC co-promoted with someone was Mayweather McGregor. And that's a rule that they stood hard and fast against for the longest time. They didn't even actually co-promote with Pride when they wanted Chuck Liddell mm-hmm. and Vanderlei Silva to fight for the longest time.
And also, like, that paradigm shift was not like a overnight thing. Conor McGregor, even though he quickly became a commodity, he went from like UFC Fight Pass with Brimage, and then got the Chad Mendes interim win, and that became such a big fight. Obviously the whole, and before that, obviously it was supposed to be Jose Aldo and that entire press tour that they put behind it. They sort of created the monster itself. And then the Nate Diaz win, he became such a commodity that the UFC's bottom line had to bend to Conor McGregor's will. They couldn't.
Right.
They could not. Even though it's been reported that they had like a $700 million year last year, a lot of that was due to McGregor. Was Conor, was Mayweather McGregor, was that event. I don't know really how it goes down moving forward. Speaking of the Muhammad Ali Act, all that, etc. I think Conor McGregor is in a position where he can do whatever he wants, and the UFC is going to have to pay him the biggest check that they're ever going to pay someone. And it's similar to, let's say, the 1920s or 30s for boxing, when we started seeing $1 million gates, $1 million paychecks for fighters, and the explosion of price fighting that it saw for in terms of people getting bigger checks. That's going to happen in MMA. Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic making less than 7 figures for a super fight should not be happening. Should not be at all. When Deontay Wilder does significantly less views on, let's say, premium network compared to pay-per-views or whatever, and he's making, let's say, guaranteed 7 figures a fight. Fighters of that caliber should be making 7 figures a fight, and they're not in the UFC.
It's amazing that the tide hasn't shifted sooner, because you just ESPN and UFC's deal is worth what, like $1.5 billion or something over 10 years, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about that sort of money. The UFC was bought by WME for $4.2 billion, and I think with the later on estimation to actually buy out the Fertittas for their full stake, I think that estimation went somewhere closer to $5 billion. So you're talking about major numbers that there are certain countries in the world that don't have in their GDP. And you've got the two of the best fighters that you have on your roster fighting each other, both champions, both with significant resumes behind them, and they both make their combined guaranteed purse was like 1.1 million.
Mm-hmm.
That makes 0 sense. And it's amazing that the tide hasn't changed yet. It's amazing. And even the way they got rid of Leslie Smith, who's the head of Project Spearhead, was, I mean, can it be any more blatant? I'm very surprised that the fighters are, by nature, fighting is a very selfish pursuit. Mm-hmm. It's a thing of solitude. So there's a certain degree of that. But when you just look at the numbers, I mean, come on, guys, wake up. Like, wake up.
They are. I think we are seeing the start of it. I mean, I think the Professional Fighters Association and the George St. Pierre conglomerate with Bjorn Rebney, whatever that fucking thing.
The MA AAA.
Oh God, whatever that was. That was the stuttering steps of this movement. The Leslie Smith Project Spearhead really start of it is, I think, the paradigm shift that we are looking for in this community. I think fighters are picking it up. It's not necessarily going to be all of them, and I think that's going to be the case. But I think enough are going to happen. I think they're going to get past this roadblock with the National Labor's Relation Board, with their, the division of, I forget where their holdup is with Leslie Smith. I forget the name of the division, but I think they're going to get past that. You have a guy like Lucas Middlebrook, who is a genius when it comes to this. They're going to get through these roadblocks for sure. I think, again, fights like Daniel Cormier, Stipe Miocic, literally a fight to determine the pound-for-pound number 1 fighter in the UFC's rankings. The UFC literally ranked Daniel Cormier as the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter. He does not get paid $1 million per fight.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, and I'm sure he walked away with more than $1 million after pay-per-view points
But even then, the pay-per-view was low.
But even still, he should be getting guaranteed that.
I mean, not Eddie Alvarez's contract is always the one that everyone goes off of because that's the most public contract for a UFC contract. Mm-hmm. Pay-per-view points don't start really hitting until, what was it, like 300,000, 350,000?
300,000. And
it did just below 400,000. So you're thinking that he made $1 per pay-per-view. So he made another $300,000, $400,000. So maybe $1 million. Maybe. But that's, again, not a guarantee. And I think at this point, fighters deserve guarantees. Ian Kidd put out a great article.
Don't forget that Reebok money. Did you forget the Reebok money? They give the fighters 50% off coupons as well for Reebok swag, man. That's a deal.
Yeah, Reebok has the worst fucking gear. ever. They do. I wouldn't want the 50% off. I would give it back to them and be like, I'm good, fam. I'm good. I don't want it.
It's like, straight. I'm straight, bro.